To what extent do genes determine our sexual orientation? Is homosexuality determined by genes or by the environment? We will try to answer these and similar questions in today's episode of the series Secrets of Genes, in which I welcome you. My name is Edward Kleinovsky, and I work as a geneticist at the Institute of Biophysics of the Czech Academy of Sciences. The question of where sexual orientation comes from has fascinated scientists and the public for decades. Homosexuality is not found only in humans. We know of homosexual behavior in hundreds of animal species, from dolphins to penguins. Nevertheless, research into human sexuality is unique. It touches on sensitive topics of identity, society, and biology. One of the most debated aspects is the role of heredity. Can homosexuality be inherited? Large population studies have shown that genes have a certain influence on sexual orientation. Twin studies, for example, have suggested that identical twins who share almost identical DNA are more likely to share the same sexual orientation than fraternal twins. But that doesn't mean there is a gene for homosexuality. In the 1990s, the XQ28 region, which is an area on the X chromosome, was often mentioned in studies in connection with a possible genetic predisposition to homosexuality. Later, however, it became clear that the situation is more complex and that multiple genes are involved. Then, in 2019, the largest genetic analysis of this kind was published. Scientists examined the DNA of nearly 500,000 people. What was the result? Sexual orientation is influenced by thousands of minor genetic variants, each of which has a negligible effect. Moreover, together they explain only a portion of the variability, about 8 to 20%. In other words, genetics contributes, but does not determine. So genes play a role, but they're not everything. The current scientific consensus is more complex. It states that sexual orientation is the result of a combination of genetic, hormonal, and environmental factors. So it's not just one gene. Besides genes, a number of other factors also play a role. This includes the hormonal environment during prenatal development, epigenetic changes, that is, the switching on and off of genes, as well as social experiences. The combination of these influences is likely the reason why human sexuality develops in such a diverse way. It's important to emphasize that orientation is not a choice, but at the same time, it isn't determined by a single gene or a single cause. It is a complex result of the interaction between heredity, biology, and environment. I like to say that homosexuality is neither a sin, nor a choice, nor an illness, but rather a normal part of human variability. Some people have blue eyes, some have green, and some are attracted to boys, while others to girls. Why does homosexuality persist in the human population if it isn't directly related to reproduction? There are several hypotheses. One of them suggests that genes associated with homosexual behavior may promote higher fertility in relatives. Another possibility is that homosexuality provided an evolutionary advantage at the community level, for example, by strengthening social bonds. It is also remarkable that each older brother increases a man's likelihood of being homosexual by about a third, which evolutionary biologists explain by suggesting that these homosexual men may help their older brothers raise children and do not compete with them for women or partners. Although we still do not fully understand the reasons for homosexuality, this is precisely what makes the question of the evolution of sexuality so fascinating. So let's summarize what we know today about the heritability of homosexuality. First, there is no single gene for homosexuality. Second, genetics plays a certain role, but it is not decisive. Third, sexual orientation is the result of a complex interplay of genes, hormones, environment, and experiences. And fourth, homosexuality is a natural part of the variability of human sexuality, just as it is in other animals. The study of the heritability of homosexuality shows that human sexuality defies simple explanations. It is not the result of a single genetic code, nor merely the influence of the environment. It is a fascinating example of how genes and experiences intricately intertwine within an organism, and at the same time a reminder that biological diversity is a fundamental feature of life on Earth. That's all for today. We've talked about a few interesting facts from human genetics, specifically about the inheritance of homosexuality. In the next episode, we'll continue with more intriguing questions about genetics and evolution. I'm looking forward to seeing you. If you enjoy my storytelling, I would appreciate a like and a subscription to my channel. I really appreciate your support. Thank you and bye bye.